Rob, welcome to the MVP Season 1 Vantage podcast.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for coming down. So just before we start the pod, we like to hit our guests with some quick fire questions.
Okay.
We call this one For the Record. Okay. So, first question, Shaquille O'Neal or Kobe Bryant?
Tough question. Big Lakers fan, but I'm going Kobe Bryant. More of a guard-like player, but I love both of them. I was a big Lakers fan back then, but I'm going Kobe.
New York or LA?
New York, no question about it. I've been to LA, which is nice, but I grew up close to New York, so I'm a New York guy.
Goodfellas or a Bronx Tale?
Goodfellas all the way. Like Bronx Tale, it was good, but nothing beats Goodfellas. That was an incredible experience. I was young. I think I was in high school when I saw it the first time. Blew me away.
Al Pacino or De Niro?
Ooh, tough. I'm going to have to say Pacino. I think Pacino's performance in Godfather were just amazing. And Godfather still just edges out Goodfellas for me.
Okay. Retire tomorrow, start again from zero?
Retire tomorrow, I think. I mean, I'm down with some retirement, golf, sunshine, Florida. That would be nice.
That's brilliant. So firstly, just want to thank you again for joining us on this. We've been trying to get this over the line for a minute now, so to have you here, it's great.
Awesome, man. Let's go.
All right, so Rob, we would like to take it back to the start. How did it all begin for you?
Well, I'm from Waterbury, Connecticut. Born there in the 70s. Grew up there through an Italian family. And I had a great childhood. Loved it. All I did was play sports, especially in the summertime, from sun up to sundown. Grew up in a neighborhood that just had so much going on outside. You know, we've come from an era where there wasn't really much to do inside. So we spent a lot of our time outside playing sports. Ended up being a pretty good player in sports, and I had some really good opportunities starting out because of that. But wonderful childhood, wonderful family, and it's been the toughest part about my career is that I've had to leave a lot of them behind.
You always know you were going to go into basketball?
No, I didn't. I think, for me, basketball was just one of the sports I played. Baseball was my favorite sport. My dad had played baseball, so baseball was really my favorite, and I wanted to be a baseball player, but, it just, the opportunities came by playing many sports, and I tell people still to this day, play all the sports when you're younger. You never know, how you will develop and what will be your best sport.
So it's like a very, some people say don't put all your eggs into one basket, but I like a lot of creators that, is now online. You have the creators that tell you got to try everything. Because then how will you know exactly what you're looking for? Because you might miss it. You don't know until you try it. So. And
I also think that by playing the other sports and doing a lot of other things, it improved me in, say, basketball. The fact that I played baseball and I played, soccer in America. I played American football a lot with my friends. So all those type of skills that I was using in all those other sports would help you in the main sport that you end up picking.
Would you say basketball was your first kind of love?
I don't think so. I think baseball was, my dad was a baseball player, and I think that was the first thing we did together was play baseball. My dad would throw the ball to me all night, just throw it to me, I'd catch it, go out and hit every day. So I really fell in love with baseball at an early age, still love it now. But I enjoyed basketball. It's totally different, indoor sport, a lot of running, which was great to keep in shape. I didn't make that decision until I was, say, 17, 18 years old on what sport I would choose.
Yeah, that was kind of me. But going on to the next question, what kind of led you to choosing? Was it because you were just better naturally at basketball, or was it just as you grew older, you kind of grew a bit more fond of?
Well, I think when I was in high school, I played three sports. I played soccer, basketball, and baseball. Basketball and baseball were my two favorites. When I was leaving high school, I think, in the USA, tuition fees are so high for university that you're trying to get that scholarship so you don't have to pay through sports. And, I was offered a lot of basketball scholarships. Baseball had a lot of partials. There's a lot of players on the team. Basketball, you have 12 players. Baseball, you probably have 40 or so. So they split them a bit. In basketball, I knew that, I was going to be able to go to school, education, university for free, which, made my decision a little bit easier for me. That's why I went down that road.
So you played at some point, actually played, not just trained the coaches.
Oh yeah, I was a player. I played, college basketball. I was an All-American in college, and then I had a 13-year professional career overseas as a player. So, from '95 to say 2007, 8 or so, I played professional basketball.
College basketball is where it's actually at, like, because obviously everyone knows of the NBA. But if you ever watch like some of the actual college basketball games, it feels more intense.
Well, I mean, I think there's just more interest. I think, especially from the media and, the people that attend games. America, obviously, big place, and, university sports have always been a big money maker and really exciting. I think you grow up, if you're into sports in America, you grow up watching a lot of college sports. I think that's a favorite of many.
I watched that Netflix series, Last Chance You.
Yeah.
The basketball one. What was the coach's name? I don't know if you.
I forgot his name, but I remember him. He made quite an appearance on that program.
Yeah, that was like a really dope documentary.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite cool because they added the cinematics to it, but you really got a feel for what those individuals are fighting for. And I think I like Last Chance a lot because it's kind of similar to like our demographic of the people that we make this whole podcast about. Yes, there's people that perhaps haven't had the best start in life, but you just watch how somebody's drive and determination can turn that around.
Yeah. It's an impressive show. I think, that's what they were fighting for. Those players were to get that, that scholarship and to be able to play basketball at a high level. And, I think that when you look at the numbers, if you are able to get a scholarship and able to play college sports, boy, you're really bucking the odds because it's really tough. There's so much competition, especially in the United States, to do that. So you could see how difficult it is, but also, how much they have to work and go through to get where they want to go.
Nice.
Relaying back to the start of the pod, off air we spoke previously when we first met, and I think our first engagement, I said to Link, I said, I feel the energy is good, and your story is so interesting, from not only just being a pro basketball player, but you mentioned to me that you was a PE teacher previously. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. When I was ending my career, I was living in Birmingham, the UK, and I knew that I had to I hadn't, coached really, professionally yet or anything. I knew I had to go down a path where I set up a career, and I was offered an opportunity for a PE job in Smethwick, in Birmingham, Holly Lodge High School. That was very interesting. I loved it. I loved working with the students. I thought that being an American, going into those classrooms, I mean, you had to deal with a lot of mimicking of the accent right off the bat.
Well, I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
because what's funny about that is Birmingham is a place where even in the UK, people have a problem with a Brummy accent. I know. You've got two accents kind of clashing.
Yeah, it was funny, and listen,
I wonder why do they talk like that?
that's what I used to say to them. You have the accent, not me. But it was a great experience. I really felt like, and I think anyone that's been involved in education understands this. When you really make an impact on some of your students, and you can really feel that, it's tough to find anything more rewarding than that. And I think that I was fortunate to work at that school where they had such a great staff that helped train me, but day in and day out, making a difference. And especially for me, as somebody who could bring a different style of coaching and some different sports, I was able to introduce them to. Baseball was one of them that they had never played before. And, by the time we were done there with the school year, everybody was really into baseball. So it was a blast. I enjoyed it, and it was something that my college basketball coach used to tell me all the time that he thought I'd make a great teacher. So I did go down that road initially.
Hey, pause the video. Okay, before we go any further, I just want to say a massive thank you to our sponsors, Wing Trap, who actually trap all the flavors in those wings. Hence, that's the name of Cures. But if you're enjoying this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, share the video with a friend, and yeah, it'll be a good one. It actually helps us. But anyway, I'll catch you guys. On pause now. You can continue.
Initially.
No,
Baseball is pretty cool in the sense like it would just bring that type of culture into the UK because it's not something that we really talk about. I think we had is it Rounders?
yeah, it's what we were, but similar.
Yeah, that's all. That was as close to baseball.
Similar. And, I think that when you introduce something to students and initially they don't know much about it, but when you see them progressing and you see them enjoying it, it was awesome. I look back at that year as a great year in my life, and I learned a lot about different cultures as well. I'm in the inner city in Birmingham, so it's a lot of different type of cultures that, I had never, been around before. So it was a really rewarding experience.
Is that the same as so in your experience from living in America? What's the cultural variation like that?
In the U.S.? Yeah, well, where I grew up in a melting pot city in Waterbury, Connecticut. Most of my friends and most of the people around in my neighborhood were Italians, and but obviously playing basketball and playing sports, and that's one of the things about playing different sports. So I'd play soccer, I'd have soccer friends. I know their parents, their family. I play basketball. I have different friends from there. Play baseball. Different types of people you find. So, for me, that was one of the most important things going forward, was not just playing all the sports. We talked about that before, but the interaction with different cultures and different types of people opened my eyes to so many different things.
I think the reason I touched on your PE career was that was one of the first things that I think struck me to get you on this podcast. We're here to celebrate success, people's journey, like Link said, people who look like us, talk like us, who have had a...
We look alike.
yeah. But
Summertime, my man. Summertime, maybe, but
you get the gist of where we're coming from in regards to the journey. But I want to take you a bit back to your playing career. So you mentioned around 18, you said you kind of made the decision you want to go into basketball. That was college basketball.
Yeah.
How did you get signed? How did the deal come about?
Yeah, the college basketball situation was, you get recruited. But back in 1988, 1989, it was a little bit different because, the internet wasn't around. So you really got recruited by word of mouth. The coaches would come to your games, watch you. There wasn't really a highlight tape you could send out or anything like that. So, it was a little tougher, to get spotted. But when I got spotted, I ended up playing in college, and I had a great career. My team was 107-24. Very proud of that. We were winners, and I had played well. I was named All-American. So I picked up an agent, and we talked about different types of places where I could play. And the first place I went to was Italy because my dad was Italian. I had an Italian passport. I think that was vital for me to get in. Being an EU player early on in my career was important. So when I got that first agent, I waited around for him to find me a job, and 13, 14 years later, I played in a lot of different places.
How was so you played in Italy then?
Italy, Spain, Greece, France, all over, bounced around, Austria. I was all over the place, England, Belgium. So I was able to, experience so many different types of basketball. Every country was a little bit different. I think, initially when you're American and you hadn't been overseas before, you think that we kind of invented the game, but you get over to some of these countries, these guys play a different brand, but an effective brand of basketball. And I think that now that I'm a coach, I think all those experiences help me out of what to do and what not to do. There's so many times where I was maybe in training sessions thinking to myself, if I ever coach, I wouldn't do that. All those experiences were great. And then, the other thing I tell people as someone who lived away from the United States from the time I was 22 and until now is I learned about other cultures, but I also learned about myself, where I came from. I think if you don't leave where you come from, sometimes you really don't get the greatest feel of where you're from and what you're about, but going away really helped me learn other cultures, but also of where I came from.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting because one of the things I want to speak to you later about on the pod is kind of the basketball culture here in the UK and compared to the US. What was it like in Europe?
Great in some of the places, I think there was a real basketball culture. Italy, Spain, phenomenal. France, great. Greece, great. So European basketball's on the rise right now. I mean, anybody who watched the Olympics knows that. I mean, they are high-level players all over the place. I think the difference for the U.S., was the facilities. We had so many facilities that we were able to use, and for the most time for free. So, when you're looking for a basketball facility in the UK, let's say, it's a little bit challenging to find one that you can play at for free. But growing up for all of us in the United States, it's easy to find a place to play.
No, definitely. I think that's one of the things that kind of I wanted to get into and speak to you about in regards to the difference in the popularity. You think it's on the rise in the UK at the moment?
Oh, yeah. I think, I got here in 2000, September of 2000. So I've been living here now 24 plus years. And when I first arrived, but there wasn't a lot of basketball being played in schools. There were some, don't get me wrong. But now the change is dramatic. And I think the other change that's dramatic about basketball or anything that you're into in life is you could access it now. So if you are a aspiring basketball player in the UK in 1995, how are you going to watch games? Okay, we're going to stay up till about 2 a.m, or we're going to try to record with a VCR. Maybe we could watch the game. Now, if you're into basketball, it's right at your fingertips. So in order to become a great player or a great musician or a great whatever, you have to watch the best do it, right? So now, growing up in the UK or anywhere in the world, you can watch the best do it easily and go out and try to emulate those players. So I think the basketball in the UK is on the rise. I think it was the second most participated sport for young people, team sport. So outside of football. So I do think that, we have a lot of momentum. It's going to take some more time maybe, but, sooner rather than later, I see basketball making a huge mark in the UK.
What would you say in terms of so you're a coach now? What is the goal for you now as a coach? Is who are you impacting? Are you doing it for your children? Who are you trying to?
Well, I'm in my 17th season as the coach of the Leicester Riders, so I've been doing it a long, long time. And I think, obviously, I'm trying to make a living. That's important for my family and all of that. But I'm also trying to, impact the community. I think, anybody that's been to a Leicester Riders basketball game in the city of Leicester will tell you what a nice thing we got going on over there. And we've done a lot of great work in the community. Our players are out there all the time, myself. But I'm also trying to give our players, I'm a coach, I'm trying to give our players the best opportunity for their careers. Of course, we want to win games, right? Going to Friday night's game, I want to win. But when you look at the season on the whole, what you want to do is win, and you want to provide your players with the best opportunity to go forward. Their careers don't last long. So, we get a lot of young players that are coming over here. So, that's been the most rewarding thing for me in the 17 seasons. Yeah, we won 17 trophies, right? But looking at my former players and the success they became playing in other places, off the court, trying to certainly do everything you can to help your players. It's like a big family when they come over. Sometimes it's only for a year or so.
Yeah, I was going to say, because as a coach, people do look at you as a father figure in that sense, isn't it? Oh, and as a father yourself, it's like you've added this extra family.
Yeah, that's
already got.
It's a great point. I say it all the time. We have 10 full-time players on the team. It's like 10 kids. It really is, where you are, focusing every day on how to make them better and how to help them. And it's different. When I first took over as a coach, I was 36. And, I had teammates that I had played with. So obviously the extracurricular activities had to change with those guys, right? You had to, maybe not go out with them anymore as the coach. So you had to separate yourself. So that was challenging in the beginning. I still looked at myself as a player back then. Now I don't. I mean, I'm, definitely my playing days are gone. So I can feel that more, and, look at a guy like, say, Connor Washington, who plays for our team. So he came to our team at 18. I think he's 32 now or so. He left a couple years, but he's been with our team. He just set the record for most games played at the Leicester Riders. But what's interesting to me is when he arrived, he was a child. And now he has 3 children of his own. So watching those journeys on the court, but also off the court, has been really rewarding to see, some of the success that the guys have had.
How do you think that has impacted you as a person? So there's a lot of learning on their side, but with vice versa, I think. What did you gain?
Well, one of the first things I learned as a coach was, wow, you have players that can educate you on the game. A lot of times you think it's just the coach, right? But, having all these guys coming from different parts of the world, different basketball programs, different styles, learn so much from my players over the years, so much. And I think it's been vital in our success to collaborate with them. But, I've also, been in position where we've had some, tough times for some of our guys, 17 years, it's not going to be all roses. So I've learned to have the empathy that I have for, certain situations, but also try to do my best to be that quote unquote father figure at times. There are times where we have these players that their family's away, they're here on their own. So, giving them the most support I possibly can has been valuable in our journey.
I think another thing that strikes me as well is I feel like Leicester Riders has got a really big name in basketball in the UK. And you being there for the last over 14, 15...
17th now, yeah.
17th, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the amount of trophies you won, I think, I know you're obviously you're very humble about it, but I think me growing up, Link growing up, obviously, as you know, in the UK, football is kind of the number one thing.
Yes.
But being in Leicester, you've always heard of the Leicester Riders, you've always heard of them having a pretty decent team, you've always heard of them doing community projects. And I think that's a big thing. I go into other cities, I've never really heard of their basketball team. So I feel like Leicester, the Riders especially, has been a kind of a part of the journey as a whole of the UK, representing. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you, 17 years in charge.
Yeah.
In another sport, for example, football, managers have sometimes a lot, kind of shorter reign, and the pressure's on. How's the pressure been for you?
I put so much pressure on myself. I try to put less pressure on myself, to be honest. I think that always in my life as a player, as a coach, I put a lot of pressure on myself. So, I don't care. You talk about the 17 trophies. I don't think about that. I think about the next game, and I want to win the next game. I'm still nervous before every game. Like the day of the game, it's the worst. That's why I like playing like at noon or 1 o'clock. I like to wake up and just go, because like it can be really tough, mentally. The anticipate. Once the game starts, great, but leading up to it, it can be really, really challenging. So yeah, again, I've been fortunate. I think one of the things that attracted me to Leicester was their fans and the city supporting their teams. It's a real good sporting town, no matter what you're into. And I find that they cross over a lot, right? Even if you're into football or into rugby, they do cross over and support Leicester. So it reminded me a lot of growing up. I grew up in a sports town, and really reminded me of that. And the fans have been wonderful, and I've been fortunate. I think I came in at the right time. When I came into the Leicester Riders, they were losing a lot, and it was perfect time to come in, right? Turn it around. We want to be the toughest team. We want to be a team that nobody wants to play. And when I first started, we'd lose games and people come up to me and shake my hand and say, hey, good try, because, we were playing harder, we were playing better. But now after wins, people come up to me and go, I don't know. So we flipped the script. And I think any coach really likes the opportunity to turn a program around. And I feel like that I was fortunate to do that. So I'm still in the spot now. So all good.
Ordinary at the top. I wanted to say, so could you still give somebody the work?
In hoops.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't play basketball much anymore because I'm concerned about getting injured. The way my life is right now with little kids, with all the stuff that I go on, I can't afford a knee injury and Achilles injury, but I'm ready to give it to somebody if they want. And I think, for me, it's always been strange because when I used to fly overseas, I used to fly over and I'd be sitting on the plane and someone would sit down next to me, older woman. She'd go, where are you going? I'm going overseas. Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to play basketball. And she'd give me a look like, I'm 5'11", so she'd give me a look like, what? Are you sure? So I don't think I walk down the street and people think I can play. I'll put it to you that way. So there have been plenty of times I've been able to go to a park and surprise people with what I got. But I don't play much anymore, just with my my kids. But my son Alessandro's 4, and I'm looking forward to some one-on-one with him. I will never let him beat me until he's ready to beat me.
You mentioned the height thing. How's it's obviously a stereotypical NBA player, 6 foot something.
Oh yeah.
Who's currently in the NBA? Would you say similar size to you, and that's doing some bits?
I'll tell you the truth, man. Like when I was growing up, there was a guy named Muggsy Bogues. Look him up. He was 5'3" playing in the NBA. Go Google him and go watch how small he. Go look how small he looks out there. It's incredible. But there's not many guys that were playing at that size. But what I tell people all the time is, it wasn't like I'm tall now. Like when I was young, I was small. So I didn't grow early and people catch up to me. I grew late to this size. So I always played sports at this height. I always played basketball at this size. So, I give a lot of credit to my dad. My dad was a real supportive person in my life, sports-wise, my mom as well. But my dad taught me a lot of toughness, And I think with basketball, I think the first move my dad made was, he's like, you're not playing in the suburban league. He said, you're going to the city to play. And he'd take you to the boys club. I didn't want to go. I didn't know anybody down there. And he just dropped me off in the inner city of Waterbury, Connecticut at the boys club. And he said, if you're going to play basketball, you're going to play with the best players. You're going to play with the best players. And even though you might look a lot different than them, you're going to learn how to play. And you're going to learn the right way. And I think from the beginning, I knew that at this size, I couldn't back down from anybody. I couldn't show any weakness. So there were plenty of times where I got in trouble for fighting or mouthing off, or, people that have watched me play will say that. But I think that was from an early age. My dad sending me to the inner city and saying, hey, man, learn it this way. Learn it this way, and it'll be fortunate for you in the long run. And, that was a great move by him. I don't think I would be a professional basketball player or a professional basketball coach if my dad didn't make that decision, because I had some other friends that weren't playing down there. They're playing in the rec league, and little Tommy making his jump shots. And but he sent me downtown, and I think that from a basketball standpoint, that was incredible for me.
I think that really probably built character, like you said, character building, put you in the deep end.
It did. There was no chance for me to be soft. I'll put it to you that way. I had to really prove to the players I was playing against and everybody around that I can cope with that. And I think that it's got me in trouble in some ways sometimes, and maybe taking a couple shots to the face at times. But you got to keep going, and you got to this life is tough, whether it's basketball or whatever. Can't show the weakness, and I think that that was valuable for me.
Maybe a slightly controversial question. So in the US, coming from the demographic you are, is it where you look maybe on the field as if he can't play or it's not his game? Was that ever?
Like white guy, he is a white guy. Yeah,
A white boy can't jump.
Oh yeah. Listen, man. Like I played in the city, and like I said, I was, I'm the only one to look like me for a lot of times on my roster, the roster I was playing against. So, yeah, I think people were surprised at that. I think they tested me on that. But I think, once they got going and once they saw the way I play and saw what I do, they respected it. And I think that, I have so many great friends from back in the day, back where I'm from. But, yeah, like I said, I wouldn't want any other way. I want to play with the best players, and we found the best players, and I wanted to prove that I could hang with them.
Did you feel like, or did you ever feel that you had a point to prove, or did that help motivate you to yell?
Yeah.
After it's been harder than it's like, because when people knock at you, they kind of count you out for a minute.
I always feel like I have a point to prove, and I think that that's always been something for me. I never, as a player, I never half-assed it. It didn't matter how many people were in the crowd. It didn't matter who was there, even if it was a practice or whatever. It might be the first time somebody saw me play standing over there, and I wanted to prove a point to anybody that had eyeballs on me that I could play. So, yeah, it's always been my thing, and like I said, it's got me in trouble a little bit sometimes, where, a little chip on your shoulders, at points, but yeah, it's the only way to survive, especially when you're playing a sport like basketball in the inner city.
I like that a lot because I was watching the Last Dance, the Michael Jordan Netflix documentary. That was a really good one again. And similar to what he said, so Jordan always turned it up all the time. And part of his thesis was somebody might be watching him for the first time in that game, and they've maybe flown in from Europe. It's the first basketball game where, and he said he had to perform. They needed to run, but they watched Michael Jordan play. And I think that kind of drive is something that perhaps people are lacking nowadays. You know, I love it when I'm scrolling with the TL and I see someone doing something that's absolutely incredible, because what it tells me is like, I'm probably not working as hard as I think I am. Because when you see those type of people, it just puts you in a perspective of what you can be capable of yourself.
You know, my dad was a baseball player. He scored a lot of his games as a child, 3-4 years old. I mean, that's where I really started. And, you know, I'd go out in the outfield and shag fly balls. And my dad really worked hard with me to be a really good player. So I used to show off in front of people, you know, like, wow, look at this guy. Like, he could play at 4 and stuff. But watching my dad was super intense. And every game mattered. Every play mattered. And, yeah, you know, I used to be on the bench with the team rooting for the game. And that's where I really got the passion for sports, was my dad bringing me to his team. So I was like on the team, and I'm 4, 5, 6 years old, and I'm like standing there on the team. Obviously, I'm not playing with the men, but I'm cheering and I'm into it. And I just saw the passion, especially for my dad. My dad, you know, he never took a play off when he played. He just played hard the whole time. So, yeah, he's been my role model, and especially in sports. And I think I learned a lot from that.
I think that's cool. I mean, sorry to just for your career. I wanted to say, so what's your opinion when you see, because I think environment obviously does affect how somebody operates within whatever sport you're working with. So there's a lot of controversy in the moment where, take someone like LeBron James, he's obviously earned his stripes, con for LeBron.
Yeah.
But then people kind of have an issue because his son is like directly in the NBA. I don't think that's his fault, personally. It's like you don't choose where you're going into. But does that have, how much of an impact does it have just to be able to be in that environment? Because I imagine, so for LeBron James' son, just being in the presence of those athletes, it's gonna put him in a position where it might just, I don't want to say advantage in an unfair sense, but more so just like it's extra exposure than maybe they.
Yeah, well, when you look at that situation, you know, a lot of people are pretty pissed off about the fact that, you know, they didn't think he should have been drafted as high as he is. They shouldn't do it. But hey, it is what it is. You just got to deal with it. But what's been so impressive for me is to look back at all the NBA players that have sons that have made it to the NBA. And it's not just about, let's say, LeBron getting the access. So sorry, Bronny getting the access to it now. You know, when he was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, he's hanging around all these NBA players. He's going to their facilities. He's able to use, you know, whatever strength and conditioning coach they had. So that's an advantage. You know, that's an advantage to be able to be exposed to that at a young age. And even now for him, he's still young, being around the best players in the world, certainly an advantage. But there are a lot of people that are pretty ticked off at him maybe lapping someone else who maybe deserves a chance.
I think from kind of an American culture side of things, you watch things like Coach Carter, and you see kind of the passion of parents and how college basketball is. Do you think that passion, that drive, that culture can be brought into the UK? Do you think it's possible?
In basketball or in any sport? Basketball, yeah, I think it's here. I you know, you don't see a lot, but I know a lot of these young players that are playing, and they're passionate and they're into it and they work hard. There's academies up and down the country. We have our own academy over at Charnwood College, where we have players come from all around the country to play. So it's there. It's there. I think, you know, the difference with the UK is that maybe the media doesn't cover it as much. Well, they definitely don't cover it as much. You don't maybe see it, but it is there. And like I said, I think that, basketball in the UK, eventually the decision makers who decide what we watch and what we see, it'll be people that have grown up more with basketball to present it to the people. So I do think it's out there. I think that, obviously facilities are a little bit of an issue to find the ways to play, and also playing outside. I grew up from the time, late March till, late October playing basketball outside. Here, maybe a little challenge with the way the weather can be. But I'm, super impressed with, the passion I see around the country when I watch any of the academies play.
No, I think you make a very good point about media coverage, because I think, especially in this day and age, kind of Netflix, just general Sky Sports, things like that, people are obviously quite in tune with it, and they're like you said earlier on in the podcast, that people stay up. I know on Twitter people are always talking about the NBA, and they're up till early hours, and the most interest is definitely there. But like you said, I guess the accessibility is one big thing.
Look at GB's the national team. They played last weekend, and they beat Greece. So, we're not far off, right? Greece is missing some of their players, of course, but still, he beat a country of Greece. I covered the Olympic Games in Paris as a broadcaster, and Greece was in the final 8 at the Olympic Games. So, United Kingdom are good enough to give them some good games. So I do think that when you look at it, it's we got guys in the NBA as well from the UK right now. So it's getting there, and I think from the time I arrived till now, the young players are much more skilled, and the coaches much more knowledgeable.
I think that's definitely.
Yeah, well, I come across I know it's probably a long shot, but there was a player called Pack. He played for not Riders. I think he played for GB.
No, Pat Chimbande.
Yeah,
He's a young player for the GB. Young GB player. Yeah, I know him very well.
I don't think he plays anymore.
No, he's actually working in our organization. I see him all the time. I've known him since he was a young boy. He was passionate about basketball. I think he went to Loughborough and played up in Loughborough for a bit for the Division I team. So certainly gave him some opportunities to go to school. I think he might have went up to Charnwood as well. So I think we've seen that from Leicester, right in our own backyard. The opportunities that players have gotten to not only play here, but even play in the United States. And we had a guy, Niall Harris, who was playing for our program. His father, Dave Harris, played for the Riders a long time ago. Now Niall went to, Dave? Yeah, Dave runs a good program. He's been a great coach for the community here. And his son is just finishing up in Florida. He's at Florida Tech, so he's there. So he was one of our young players. And we have a few more that have done that. So it's great to see. I've seen players play, but also get opportunities, to further themselves in other areas. Sports is great for that. I think sports introduces you to so many people that, once your playing days are finished, you can be, put in a good situation because you've met those people in sport.
Yeah. What about John James?
John James. John was my assistant coach at the Leicester Riders when I played. So you're dropping some names in here with Carl Brown. Carl was a colleague of mine as a player in the league, but then he became a coach, and Carl was my coach when I played for the Leicester Riders, played one season at the Leicester Riders, and John was our assistant coach. John's brother, Paul, Leicester guys, Paul James, was one of the all-time winningest coaches in British basketball history. So I've known the James family for a long time.
Yeah, no, he was I played at Warriors for a little bit. That's where I know Pac from.
Yep. And Carl.
Then John also went to my school as a coach, so some people think in the picture next to you, I look like it, sir. Say,
yeah,
I'll show you a picture.
Yeah, awesome family, and a great basketball family in the city, and great people, great people to talk to as well. John was great.
I'll show you this layer. That's cool.
Going back to your coaching career, a few questions I've got for you.
Yeah.
What's the toughest decision you've had to make as a coach?
Oh, wow. Great question. But I have that answer for you. So my second season, I believe is second season. When you're here for 17, you start mixing up seasons. But we had a player on our team. I'm not going to mention his name. We had a player on our team that was leading the league in scoring, by a lot, leading the league in assists. He was our best player by a mile. And we're playing in a semifinal cup game. You win, you get to the final. Riders hadn't been to a final in years, hadn't won a trophy in years. This is a big deal. Second season for me. Here we go. Here's my chance. Playing Sheffield, I believe, and it's like the second quarter, and this guy is like really mouthing off throughout the game with people, and he's just wild. And we've had incidents with him before. And we sit down on the bench, and I pull out the clipboard, and I say, okay, listen, so-and-so, I won't say his name. I said, you can't go this way. You have to go that way when you run this play. It's not the way to... And he just exploded at me in the timeout, cursing, shut the fuck up, blah, 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 like wild. And I just said, go sit over there. And I never put him back in the game. We lost, but I never put him back in because I couldn't. And I had people behind me yelling to put him in the game throughout the whole game. But the way he reacted and the way he acted, I knew that if I caved in for this one game, I'd lose the players for the rest of the season. If you'd allowed that to happen. And that was the toughest decision I had to make, because if I played him, there's a chance we could get to this final. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to be a great coach. I want to continue my career, be huge for my career, but I also knew what's right is right. And I remember calling my university coach, who's Stan Spiro, is a great friend of mine, real confidant for me. And telling him the story, and he was proud of me. He thought, now you're a coach, he said. Now you know what it's all about. And I think that was definitely the toughest decision I ever had to make, because I hurt myself in a lot of ways. But I think for the good of the team and for what's right is right, we made the decision not to put him back in the game. And I won't mention his name.
In basketball, do you have so obviously Leicester Riders, you have like a board or a management team that you answer to? How did they take to that decision?
They were all behind it. We sent him home the next day. So, when we spoke about it after the game, and that's been great here in my time with the Leicester Riders. I've never had really any interference in what I wanted to do, and I'm blessed for that. Kevin Rowledge and the Rowledge family have owned the club, and they've really just let me get on with it. Russell Levinston was our general manager here for a long time, and he was so supportive. They were all so supportive over the years to allow me to do what I wanted to do. So there was no problem with that. They understood what the move was, and I think we didn't want to be that type of team that would, win at all costs. We want to run our program the right way.
No, I think that's so important, and I think having a foundation behind you who believe in those principles, and like you said, the team would have seen the disrespect, and that would have, for another manager or somebody else, I might have just been like, okay, it's okay, we'll deal with it later. If we win, we win. But then you lose the dressing room with that in a situation like that. So I think hats off to you with that decision. In the grand scheme of things, you've still gone on to have success. And I think that's the most important thing.
The most important thing to know, though, is at that point I hadn't, right?
Okay, wow.
So, if I did that now, you might say, well, you have won 17 already, right? I hadn't been to a final yet as a coach. I hadn't been anywhere. So, boy, it was a tough decision. But, when I look back at it, it was probably the best decision that I've ever made as a coach.
The other question I had is, you mentioned, obviously, you've had highs and lows. As a coach, has there been a time where it's been really, really bad? Maybe consecutive defeats, or just the dressing room's gone flat, and where you've thought to yourself, how do I get these guys back up again? And what have you done to try and pick them back up?
Yes, we've had that situation. I won't mention the years, or I won't mention the players there on that, but we've had you coach 17 years, highs and lows, ups and downs. I think it's important to just be honest all the time with your group. Be honest. Don't let them catch you telling a fib, telling a lie. Don't let them catch you bullshitting them. I don't want to bullshit anybody. I want to be honest, and I want them to know that, they can trust me. That's not to say they're always going to like me or agree with me, but you got to keep the trust. You got to keep the trust, and you have to show them that you really care about their career as well. I think that is one thing that when I recruit players, I try to sell our program, but I also try to sell the fact that we can get you where you want to go. And I mean that. And I try to follow that the best way I can. And I think that's been important in times of losing streaks. And I think when you play 50 games a year, 45, 50 games a year, you know it's coming. You know it's going to happen. And there were times where we went on so many runs where we're winning so much. I say, say to people like, sooner or later, you're gonna have that issue where you're losing and maybe things aren't going well. Because when you're losing, nobody likes anyone, right? I mean, that's why, like, I'll go back to university. We were 107-24. So there's a lot of happy faces walking around, and that was vital. Even my coach, when we lost, he wouldn't have any gel in his hair. He'd come down, he'd be like, "Oh shit, man, we're screwed today." So, you have to keep it going no matter what.
So, yeah, with the new Man United manager, you mentioned being a former player, kind of gives him that extra kind of thing, knowing what goes in a player's head. With yourself, has that ever happened? Like, you kind of, maybe a player's going through a rough patch of form, some personal issues that could be going along. Could you relate? And has that helped you in your coaching career?
100% vital for me. One of my strengths as a coach was that I understand, what it takes to play at this level. I understand how difficult things can be at times. I also understand, maybe we're a little bit tired, sore, whatever. I feel it. I could feel it still. I could feel those aches and pains. So I think that, you don't have to be a former player, but I think it's an advantage in a lot of ways. And I think when I recruit the team and I talk to the team and they understand that I've already been a player, I think the respect goes up a bit. I think the players will respect the fact that you've been out there doing what they do. So yeah, I think it's been vital for me in my coaching career.
Financially, in the UK, massive difference to the amount of money earned in the US, I'm guessing.
Massive, yeah, 100%. Way different level, and I think that that's why there's been a lot of coaches in our league that have gone on to different countries, gone to different places. We have two. When I played in the league in 2000. From 2004 or 5 or so, there were two coaches in the league at that point that are now head coaches in the NBA. Nick Nurse, he won a world championship with the Toronto Raptors the year they won it. He was the head coach. Now he's at the Philadelphia 76ers. He coached many teams in the UK. And Chris Finch, who coached the Sheffield for a long time, is now the head coach of Minnesota Timberwolves. So, yeah, there's a lot of money in basketball around the world. And, I've been tempted at times to go. But for family reasons, and the fact that I really enjoy my job here and enjoy living here, I've stayed, and I think that, sometimes maybe we could look for the money or whatever, and then the life changes in a lot of ways. So we'll see. I never know what's going to happen in the future.
If you could coach any team, what was your dream team?
The New York Yankees baseball team, right? But I don't think I'm going to get that opportunity as a non-baseball guy. They're my favorite team. But in the NBA, Lakers wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't mind living in Santa Monica out there. It'd be pretty good. Nice weather.
So, I've got a question for you. You're in charge of Sport England basketball. You've been given the role as the chief of Sport England basketball.
Can you tell us a bit more, or there's me that don't know what that means?
So, what do you mean? Like, just be the boss of basketball in England?
You're the head of the governor of basketball in England.
Don Corleone.
What would you do? Not saying that some of these things may have already been done. What would you do to implement a more of a rise in basketball? And like I said, I'm not taking away from what's already a very popular sport in England. I believe that, and having spoken to you, like you said, there's a big scene of it. But what else could be done?
I think the first thing that has to be done, and it's probably very difficult to do, that's why it's not been done, is investment in the game. I mean, that's got to be number one. That's got to be the number one, to get more investment into the game. I don't have the figures in front of me, but basketball has not been a sport that has gotten a lot of money from government. You know, it's always talked about where even though it's being even though it's been played and has so many participants around the country, it doesn't show that in the funding. The funding has been really low for basketball. Like I said, that's never been my job, and I've never been involved in it, but I know that that's always been an issue. So that's got to be number one. And I think facilities. I think they set up something where they're going to parks now, and they're redoing the courts and making sure every park has nets, and that's good too. Get people outside playing, but the investment in the sport has to go another level. It has to go another level, and until it does, and that's why I think the GB team, the men's team, with more investment, could be if France can do it, I don't see why UK can't. There's not that much difference in size. And France, they were in the gold medal game in both men's and women's Olympics this year. So I think France is a good model. And I think it's the funding that they get that basketball doesn't get in this country. Yeah, that's vital.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier you were broadcasting and commentating on the Olympics. How did that go?
Man, that was awesome. That was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I was, at home one December morning, and I got an email, and I had to read it twice. It said, "Would you be interested in broadcasting basketball at the Olympic Games in Paris?" And I didn't apply for it or anything, and I had done some work with BBC covering the NBA for years, and somebody found me there, and off I went to Paris. That was incredible. I was there. In the building for some of the greatest basketball games that have ever been played. I think the USA-Serbia semifinal. If you're ever looking to watch a great game on YouTube, look for that, because that was one of the best games ever, and I was there for the gold medal game. So yeah, it was phenomenal. It was like a religious experience for a basketball coach to see this high level play and to be at the Olympics. And I think it was so cool that France was in the final. So I covered the women's and the men's, and France was in both finals. So the electricity and the atmosphere in the arena in Paris was special. I missed the day I came home. And I was happy to come back home. I was there for 3 weeks, but the day I came home, I missed it. It was. I knew it was something that I'll never forget.
Were there any surprises in kind of any underdogs who made it?
Well, South Sudan was impressive. All right, so South Sudan and Luol runs South Sudan. Luol Deng played in the NBA for a long time. He's grew up in London. Got there when he was a teenager. So Luol came through the UK, went out to be a long-time NBA player, played for the Bulls, played for a lot of teams, but he took over South Sudan, and they made it to the Olympics, and they were, impressive, because, there were stories that they didn't even have facilities to practice at, all this kind of stuff, and they really punched above their weight with the heavy hitters. And I think Serbia, everybody knows they're a basketball power, but they were up 13 in the second half, I think, I have to look back at that, but against the USA. They almost beat the USA in the semis. So that was pretty exciting to be a part of that and be in the building for that one.
Another thing I wanted to actually speak to you about was a little bit about the Leicester Riders. What's the cost of a season ticket?
Man, you put me on the spot there. I don't know. I haven't bought one yet. Maybe soon.
Or average cost of a game attending
I think 50 to 20 pounds, I'd say. I'm guessing a little bit here. I haven't really looked at it, but it's just affordable. I mean, when you look at some of the prices in other sports, it's certainly an affordable sport. And I think what basketball has is a family environment as well. And I think that it's indoors as well, so it's warm. So you don't have to sit out in the cold, in the freezing cold. But one thing we like to make our mark and be different is that our players are really accessible after the games. They do a good job of interacting with the fans. They don't just leave. They sign autographs. They stay. So it's a great family environment to bring your family to. And I think that anyone that I talk to for the first time that goes is blown away with the speed and the quickness of the game. It's a fun game to watch live.
I think we've gotten a glimpse of perhaps Rob the professional. What are your, perhaps maybe more in your personal life, like what's motivating you right now? Are you religious? Are you spiritual? Tell us about.
Well, my family, number one. That's all I do, really. My work, and I spend time with my family. I don't really do too much other than that. wife, Sarah, who's from Leicester. Yeah, she's been incredible for me. Her family's from here, so it's almost like I have a family here now, which has been awesome. I spent so much of my life as a professional kind of living alone, and now I have a family. But yeah, I'm religious. I went to Catholic school growing up. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, and my daughter just made her communion this summer. So yeah, we go to church in Bristol. But yeah, I mean, my family is everything to me, and I think growing up in the big Italian family that I grew up in, I learned that from one of the first memories I have is being with the family and understanding how important that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is something that's quite significant within. I don't want to use the word. I don't know what I think of. Do you know what? When I hear Italians, I think of Mexican and all forms of Hispanic culture. Because you're watching the film, everything is about family. Fast and Furious, you got that. What's his name? And you got the meme where everything is about family. So I can understand how that's kind of like, I guess with your Italian descent, you've embraced that. But I guess maybe more tailored to you, what are the challenges of your job and the implications that it has on your family time?
Yeah, and especially during the season, in the off season, not so much, but during the season with the travel, on the weekends especially, and if you have your daughter in a Frozen play on a Sunday afternoon, and I have a game in London, I can't go. My son Alessandro is now getting ready to play sports, and he's going to have games where I might not be able to go. So I think that when you're in a sport like mine, where you're working on the weekends a lot and over the holidays, you miss out on things. I miss so many weddings in my life, friends that have gotten married because I was playing professional basketball and I was away, and it's a sacrifice that you have to give up when you're in a job that's not 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So yeah, that's a challenge for me, but it's also a great opportunity for me, being in the business that I'm in, to introduce my kids to pretty cool that they're able to come to practice, come to the games, and be a part of something with me. So I've experienced a lot of my greatest highs with my children and with my wife, being on the court after the big wins. I still have all the pictures. They're my favorite pictures with my kids when I'm celebrating. So, but it can be challenging. Also mentally challenging, right? So like, if we have 2 games or 1 game or whatever, and I'm home on a Wednesday night and it's a big game, and it's hard for me to shut it off. I can't shut it off. I still talking to you, but I'm still if I'm having a conversation with you, I'm still thinking about what play to run. Should I do that? What should I do tomorrow? So when you're in this type of job, you don't go home and shut it off. It never shuts off. So that can be challenging. But fortunately for me, I've done it for a long time. So I do my best to get the balance right.
You spoke about sacrifice, which I think that's one thing where you look at the most successful people in the world, and there's a common theme we hear all the time. We get to see the good days, the glory days. What would you say has been perhaps, because you've had a long career, could you give perhaps one of the hardest sacrifices that you feel you had to?
Yeah, I don't know if there's one in particular, but I think in order to, I didn't get an opportunity to play basketball in the United States, it was the NBA or to go overseas. And I missed a lot of my family in my life. I've been here now for 24 years. In 95, I went overseas as well. So ever since 1995, I've been away from my mother and my father and my brother and my grandparents. My grandparents are deceased now, and, I spent a lot of their life away from them. My mother and father, I see him in the summer for a few weeks. So that's been the biggest sacrifice for me, to be honest, is that I grew up in such a tight-knit family that we were together all the time. And now I can't be with them. So yeah, I feel like I missed out a lot with family and friends and close friends. I have so many close friends that I stay in contact now. We can all stay in contact with them, but you just don't see them anymore. So that's been the biggest thing for me, is just leaving a life and not being able to go back because I've followed my dreams as a player and now a coach.
Would you say this is just a theory that's across the board in the sense that to play at the highest level, would you say these are probably the likely things that you are going to that you should expect that you're going to have to say?
I think so. And I think when you talk to players that made it at the top, they talk about, how they didn't have maybe a normal childhood where, when their friends were at the beach or their friends were going to dances or whatever, they were practicing or playing. So you do know that you have to give up some social life that, the other, kids have, other children have, other adults have. So I think it's part of it, and you can see that. And like when you look at, say, like the NBA, for instance, these guys that are coaching in the NBA, they're 82 games season, 82. So they're in the air, they're on the road. I talked to one of my friends who's a photographer for the Chicago Bulls. He's actually the head of their media. He used to work with us. Great mind, Joe Pinchin, superstar in the making. And he told me something that was interesting. I saw him at the Olympics this year. He said that every night about 7 o'clock, 6:45 or so, when you're at an NBA arena, underneath where the locker rooms are, there's a line of players, coaches, staff members FaceTiming. And they're all FaceTiming their kids. They're all FaceTime saying good night to their kids. So these people that when you see on TV, they're in the private jets, they're at the hotels, they're living large, it looks like, but they're also sacrificing so much to be at that top level.
I think, like Link said, a lot of sacrifices that you've had to make in life to get where you've got to. What's the best piece of advice you've ever got in life, going away from just generally just basketball? What's the best advice you've ever received, whether it be from your father or from someone you look up to? What's the best advice you've ever had?
I'm on to that.
Yeah.
What's the best advice? And can you give us an example of the time you didn't follow that advice?
I think, man, there's so much great advice I've gotten from so many people over the years, but making a good first impression. Make a good first impression. I think I've always tried to follow that. And, sometimes maybe it can be a little shy. And I think, in my high school, when I went to high school early on and even at university, I think I was a little too shy sometimes as far as introducing myself to people and introducing myself to situations. And I think I've gotten better at that over the years. But making that great first impression when you meet somebody, making eye contact, shaking hands, communicating, having an energy about you goes a long, long way. And I think that, I try my best that when I meet someone, I try to be as genuine as I can be and to make that good first impression.
I think that's why the reason why he's on this pod today.
Did I do it?
How many times, Link, did I mention him to you?
Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. But it's been a lot of practice, and my mom is wonderful at that. My mother she worked in a doctor's office for years, and she was so good with people, and she was the person that you remembered her when you met her. I see people all the time saying, "Your mom took care of me. Your mom, she's great. She was wonderful." And my mom probably only had 10 minutes with that person, but the impact that she used to make in her job was eye-opening for me, and I tried to emulate her like that.
Yeah, I think you've got the first impression thing to see now.
But wait till you get to know me. I'm a real asshole once you get going.
I think both me and TBK both agree. It's like even your aura, you have an interesting thing. It's sometimes it's somewhat a gift as well. To have this aura that you don't necessarily, you've just lived your life and become who you are, but you've got that energy that allows people to be drawn to you, to listen. I feel like anytime you open your mouth, it's never boring, and that's something the skill.
That's my kids, Dad. I don't know about that, but yeah.
I think your kids always have shut up, Dad.
Hey, man, I'm just trying to be genuine all the time. Just trying to be a genuine person. Growing up where I grew up, that's how people were. They were genuine. Sometimes they, tell it like it is.
Do you feel that difference now? No, because it's been a lot of time. Like you said, from the time you grew up, there was no media or word of mouth to read about there. But now everybody's got a phone, you have this persona that people see.
I love when I grew up. I'm thankful that I grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I am thankful for that. It is what it is now, and I have my phone too, and I'm doing everything with the phone. But there was a real different vibe to life when you couldn't just sit on the phone. Even when I played overseas basketball, my first few years, there was the internet hadn't taken off yet. So like when I was done with practice in some of these countries, I couldn't just call my friends from home. I couldn't watch any movie. I couldn't do anything. So it kind of forced you to come up with ways to entertain yourself. You were able to, whether it be meeting people. I tell these guys all the time, back when we played, we went out at night. We went out. Why? Because there was really nothing to do at home, right? You couldn't just sit and watch the movie. So I'd almost rather back in those days when you went out and you had a good time out, but by the time it was 1 o'clock, you were back home passed out, ready to go for the next day. Now these guys are on the phone 7 in the morning, talking to the players. They're like, yeah, I watched that game last night. I'm like, you did? So, it was just a different era of, what you could do and how you can entertain yourself. But I'm so thankful for that. And I think it allowed me to be more of a people person as well, because you really had to go up to people and introduce yourself. You couldn't just slide into somebody's DMs in any way. You had to be really personable, and I think that was important. And I think you look at our generation, and I think you see a lot of that, really personable people that made their way in the world a different way. And I think now I'll say this: the players have changed so much over the years because of that. The people have changed so much, and I'm not saying bad or good or whatever, but you have to coach differently now. You can't coach the same way. The attention spans aren't the same way. 15 years ago, 2.5 hour practice, nothing. Now, after an hour and a half or so, you're going, Same thing with the video room. You make it short and quick because the attention spans are different. So as a coach, you have to adapt to not only the way the game's being played, but society on the whole.
Yeah, 100%.
So before we wrap things up, I've got 2 things I want to touch on.
All right.
So we've got a request for we had you on.
Okay.
Some of our friends who are, let's say, basketball fans asked me to. There's a trend right now. It's keep, sell, or bench.
Okay.
So we've got MJ, Kobe, and LeBron. Who are you keeping? Who are you selling? Who are you benching?
Could you ask that one more time? I think you're a bit far from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we start again?
Yeah. The question is.
So we've had a request sent in from one of our friends who knew that you were coming on. So there's a trend right now on social media: keep, sell, or bench. We've got MJ, Kobe, or LeBron. So who are you keeping? Who are you selling? And who are you benching, coach?
Well, it's a tough one here, obviously, but it's tough for me too because I'm a huge Kobe fan, right? I was a Laker fan. But I'm gonna have to say Michael's first. What was that? What was
So
it?
you're keeping Mike, right?
Keeping Mike.
And then
I'm keeping Mike.
you keeping.
I'll sell Kobe and I'll bench LeBron.
Okay.
I've seen Kobe in person. I actually met him in the locker room. I used to work for ESPN. I worked for ESPN for 1 year on the NBA Tonight, and I met him in the locker room. Very nice guy. Very nice, pleasant guy. But when I saw Jordan in person, I went to see Jordan in person in Boston at the Boston Garden, and when he walked out, I'm telling you, every eye in the building was on him. From the time he walked out till the end of the game, he had this just presence about him. And when you look at what he was able to accomplish in his career and how driven he continually was, I got to take Mike.
And the other one we had, a bit more current, is Steph Curry or Kyrie Irving.
I'm going Steph. I think Kyrie's great. I mean, anybody watch, he's a wizard with the ball, but I was at the Olympics watching Steph, and, he put on some incredible performances at the Olympics. To see him do that live, just Google him, Steph at the Olympics, it was impressive. So Steph Curry, greatest shooter ever in the world, and seems like a good dude, too.
Yeah, I love Steph. He sold me with a no-look shot
when he turns around and stuff. Sometimes he'll take a shot, he'll turn and just run. But he does this now when the games, or when he hits a shot to put the game out of reach. He did it in Paris.
That's cold.
He did it in Paris as well, and I was there for that one. He took a wild shot, it looked like, but not for him, and he made it, and he did this to the whole crowd. So I'm Steph.
Like that's so phenomenal, because that's the whole thing I'll say to you. You watch that no lip shot on your phone, it makes you realize whatever you do, you don't do it to that. You're probably not doing it.
Keep trying though. Keep trying, and it makes you want to go outside and try it. And that's why I said before how cool it is now for basketball fans or anything you're into. Now you can find your stars and your heroes, and Steph is somebody that everybody wants to be able to shoot like.
And to wrap up the podcast, is it MVP season 1? What's one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring basketball player?
Aspiring basketball player, I would say physical fitness. Make sure you could run longer than your opponent, man. That's not that hard to do either, right? Go outside and run until you know that you are in the best condition possible. Because if you are, you will be better because of that. And I think if you really dedicated yourself to being in top condition, people say to me all the time, what should I work on? My shooting? I go be in great condition. Be able to run the whole game and never be tired. Do that. Try that for once. See how much better you play. So that's always the thing for me, and I think that was one of my greatest strengths. Is I didn't really I get tired now, but I didn't really get tired when I was younger because I thought my conditioning was to a high level.
That's very interesting because growing up, one of my friend's dads was a very, very good footballer, and his one piece of advice was, if you can't run 90 minutes in a game, I don't care what you can do with the ball, because it's irrelevant.
And it's not hard to work on that either. You could just be by yourself and work on your conditioning, So my dad was great with that. My dad was a road runner. He ran road races. So we used to run a lot as kids, but always made me a better player when I was in better condition.
Thank you very much for coming down today, Rob, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you. It was awesome. I love this place here that you guys got, and keep doing what you do.
Appreciate it.